quick and simple intro. Welcome to another episode of Dream Chases Insanity. Well, forgive me for that. Welcome to Dark Wizard Destiny's Dungeon. We'll just call it that because there's so many different things going on beneath that one umbrella. I might as well just welcome you into the spot, wherever I'm at, and then we'll call it the dungeon and you're part of the family. So how's that sound? Welcome to Dark Wizard's Dungeon. This is not actually going to be a part of our Dream Chasers Insanity, which we will have weekly vlogs for that. This will be a part of our shamanic healing series. Somebody in the comments, I apologize, the name of the commenter is blanking right now, but it's all love. I'm going to put it on the board right here so everyone can give you a thank you. Amazing person in my community asked if I could give a response, but I thought I might as well give an entire analysis on the differing perspective that I have as a neurodivergent autistic person when it comes to detachment. Over the next couple weeks, and forgive me, this is just the beginning of my career. So in the next coming weeks and the next coming years, we are going to be discussing and reevaluating a lot of holistic and spiritual concepts and practices so we as autistic people can continue to be participants in the collective sphere of life that is going on while not falling victim to the illusions and lies and scams that continue to be fed by holistic people, not assuming that they'll have greater impacts than just those ones. This is for those of us autistic people that got left behind, those of us neurodivergents that are late diagnosed and don't know how to grapple with transitioning into a life where we now don't have to reject the fact that we're autistic all the time and we kind of have to accommodate the fact that we are instead of just say, I can go on without sleep, I can go without food, I can go without. Can't do that anymore, especially when you're burnt out. So in my own personal burnout, I've had a lot of time to study my mind and study just kind of the world that I live in as an autistic person and add on some perspectives from those in our community and those who aren't in our community. So hopefully all the perspectives that I give you an opportunity to make way with the confusion that is our world, our brains, and this world that doesn't really appreciate us, and give you a chance to take the steps in creating a life that you can fully appreciate without neglecting or rejecting you and your autistic self. That's really the point of these videos. I'm realizing I initially wanted to be in the self-improvement, the lifestyle development field or industry, but there's so much self-rejection and self-hatred in there because people are trying to fix themselves into a position to where not they can accept themselves, but to where society or their peers or their enemies can accept them as being this person. That's a very bastard way of looking at healing and growth, because at the end of the day, your progress is going to be rooted in other people's validation of you, not your own validation of yourself. This is where we go a little bit differently than the other world goes. And instead of continuing to drag you out, like I'm trying to bring you into, what's that one story? Hansel and Gretel. I'm trying to bring you into my castle. Instead of dragging you along, attempting to kind of paywall you into my cult community, I want to give you the tools that you need to get to where I know you can go. And for any other help that you need progressing on that journey, you can come find me. Because again, this is a journey that I'm on as well. And to be of any value to you, somebody who's beginning yours or somebody who's trying to really take the steps to make it consistent, I have to make sure that I'm on my P's and Q's as well. So, hope that was a decent intro. Check out the board, check out what we're working with today. See, I know you guys come in here and stay for the sexy face, but some of these ideas are good. I'm genuinely telling you right now, some of these ideas are good, and you really got to sit here and listen to those. I'm giving you a lot of time to check out that board because I'm figuring out how I'm going to lead into this. Oh, actually, because I don't know how we're going to lead into this, but I do know something I do want to say, and I'm probably going to forget by the time I get into rambling. If you want to support the channel, like, comment, subscribe. That's one way. Helps us get through the algorithm because YouTube hates black people. Or you can check out our Patreon. You can donate a little bit because starving artist can't starve for long or else I can't make any art. Final thing is going to be Cosmic Nomads, Rebel Souls. If you want to check out our merch, which I'm going to be getting some fresh merch for myself. I just haven't been getting it because I've been bogged down by capitalism and adult bills and inflation and all that nasty stuff, I'm just making excuses. I'm about to copy some shirts. I might hand out some shirts for free, to be honest. And beyond that, you go copy some shirts and help spread the word, spread the message. If you rock with us, I rock with you. And if you rock with me, you might as well rock with the stuff we got given for you. Thank you for everybody who just takes the time to watch these videos and just be here. More than anything, that's what I'm appreciative of. Anything beyond that is just me offering you an opportunity to pat me on the back a little bit more. But I hope you don't feel as if you are less than or you are not as deeply ingrained in a part of this community just because you aren't able to contribute or donate at any point. You are still family here. And I thank you for being able to humble yourself enough to bring that vulnerability, bring that authenticity, bring that real self to us so we can all bask in that energy together. This is just the beginning of something great. And I realize that I can't keep holding this back from you guys as if it's going to get any better the longer I hold on to it. I just give you everything that I am and allow the world to receive it how it does. No expectations. And that's where I'm trying to go with it right now. So this is probably a good time to get into the video. How about it? Okay. First, let's start with just a little analysis of what I believe this conversation needs to start with. And it's going to be the only reason we address ourselves in our inner world is to become aware, to acknowledge what is there, to accept what is there, to alchemize what is there, to purge what we don't want and to integrate what we do want, and then to release or actualize what we have learned from what we have integrated, release that into the world through actualizing change through ourselves, actualizing accomplishing a goal, a need, a to-do, a task, but actualizing it outward. Letting this be a process, an energetic process that we're playing with our reality. So we uniquely have a relationship to the world we are living in with our own 10 toes and 2 feet. Okay, so it's not really, and again, I can't make these emotions for you, but the focus shouldn't be on what others have and what I don't. It should be on what uniqueness I have and how I can appreciate that. So much so, I'm not needing to be completed by the validation of other people accepting that in me, which they don't understand yet, or they just aren't willing to understand. A lot, and again, I was saying this in the intro, but a lot of our self-help culture is very neurotypical, holistic coded. And if you really think about it, because we're so heavily plagued by capitalism and capitalist psychosis, our culture is just manufacturing slaves. I made this point on my TikTok probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago, saying how Alex Hormozy, who is somebody that I still in some ways look up to as an entrepreneur, his advice went from really good entrepreneurial advice, like almost neck and neck with the journey he was on. And the second he went into a stratosphere that was just too far for the common man to appreciate or comprehend, that's when I started to realize like, oh, this isn't advice for the rising entrepreneur who wants to be a competitor to somebody like Hormozy. This is him indoctrinating a slave or telling somebody through like, oh, this is what I would do, and task rabbiting a human being into making them almost create a schedule of their own enslavement, just waiting for a master, a high-paying master, to give them an opportunity and then buy out their enslavement, their self-induced enslavement. Now, why do I call this slavery? I know it's big words, blah, you guys are scared of those. But when you're promoting, especially young people, working 12 hours a day, 12 hours a day doing what though? When you're promoting them to be super frugal, but frugal to the point where they're isolating themselves from community, isolating themselves from activity, isolating themselves from engagement, and from the immediate validation that is their peers around them. Because as much as you guys want to say you're better than that, we all need that immediate sense of community to remind us like, hey, we are not the only one person in the world of 8 billion people. And there's 8 billion people who are moving along without us. beyond being lonely, that's a very scary feeling to have. And when people feel like they've fallen off the train and they can't get back on, that is cause for ridiculous things to go down in anybody's life. So this is just me attempting to be aware. Let me remember where I was at, because I didn't mean to get sentimental right there. Okay, it's important that I bring that up, and this is no hate towards Alex Hormozi. I understand he's at the mercy of the life that he is living, and he is living a life that is a consequence of all the work and investment that he has put in. So unless he gets exposed as a scammer or a liar, then I don't have any hate for him, because I've taken a lot of quality advice from him, and I appreciate that, especially in a world where people who are at that level are only like 80 years old, bro, and like super racist and just like very unappealing, and also super narcissistic in the way that you have to basically like lick their toes to get basic free information out of them, instead of them actually being eager to teach the next generation how to acquire wealth. Probably because the way they acquired most of their wealth was either depriving people of human rights or destroying society and hoarding access to abundance and resources that can be used to make society a better place for everybody. But if that means that they can't be better than anybody, then they're just gonna hoard that and stop that opportunity like a piece of shit. So, a very interesting aspect about holistics, and I've always thought about this as somebody who just knows he's not getting any like actual accommodations from traditional like healthcare and just American healing in general. But it's just hilarious that holistics are the baseline. Like, it's funny that we call holistics neurotypical and make them the baseline for what our humanity is and what our standards of humanity are. Because then you basically just get to punish any autistic or any neurodivergent person who expresses themselves beyond the cookie cutter box that you tell people is their natural human nature. And then you get to say all of the natural traits that are only attributed to holistic people is human nature. So their desire to be a part of a crowd because they can't accept themselves, that's not human nature, but you're gonna say it's human nature. Their desire to follow a master and to be told what to do and to be led. You understand what pathological demand avoidance is? See, some of us have that. So you're gonna call me disagreeable or stubborn or annoying because I'm not going to just blindly follow the laws you give me because of the position of power you're in, even if I can see from the position of power I'm in that you are doing this for your best interest and for nobody else's. And I'm sacrificing my well-being for your best interest. But again, we're gonna call that a name, and then beyond calling that a name, you're gonna give me a medication to reject my feelings of superiority. Because based on my wealth class status, I'm a slave. I'm one of those annoying radical slaves that talks too much and thinks too much and doesn't do enough work because I'm lazy. But, okay, we'll keep rocking into this. Let me see. Whenever I get like just emotionally like riled up, I totally forget where I'm going. So let me just get a second and put my feet back on the ground. And then I was talking about holistics being the baseline of culture. Thank you for that. Us making holistics the baseline of culture, remember, it doesn't only make an almost impossible to achieve standard for people who are not holistic, forcing us to go to extreme methods to shave ourselves off, to insert ourselves into a society where you have to compete against other natural born holistic people for acceptance in your holistic coded behavior. It's like telling black people who are already talented to shell themselves and then box themselves and all of their gifts so they can make all these white people comfortable so they can maintain their job in corporate America, because if they acted how they really wanted to act, they'd either be broke, homeless, or working a job that's dead end. See how all the systems of oppression just like line up, one. Everybody uses the same thing, and if you just sit there and see like, oh, this is a human response to fear. This is a human response to lack. This is a human response to confusion. Then we can start addressing the human issues. But when we start integrating these titles and identities and labels and then we start dividing people, well, your identity is more valuable in this one because you have 3 letters and this one has 8 letters and this one comes from the north and this comes from the... And we just slowly start to divide into meaningless identities, stopping us from addressing the human issue that will forever plague all conversation if we refuse to address it. But it's the importance of having, again, before I just continue to repeat myself, the importance of having the neurotypical as the baseline standard of humanity is because you get to not only punish autistic people and neurodivergent people for breaking against the ruling class's authoritarian level of control, but you also get to program society based on these neurotypicals' natural desire to be accepted and included into the culture for whatever it is, because the fear of being excluded or left alone or being left to their own devices and their own inner worlds, which many of them don't have, is a lot scarier than being able to sit outside the group and say, hey, that's not human. And just because everybody's jumping off that cliff over there, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna do it either. Which is hilarious because a lot of you holistic people and neurotypicals be saying that, but all of our culture, literally all of our culture is 10 people did something, or 10 people told 100 people to do something, and then everybody else followed, or 70% of people follow them afterwards. And then we're all sitting here crying about the consequences 25 years later because nobody knew. My bad, everybody knew. Everybody knew. But you shut up all the smart people so we can wait until it's too late to address consequences that are too grand to fix. Another reason why you have to promote these people to baseline society, like, and I'll get to this point at the end of the video, but comparing holistics and autistics is apples and oranges. You will not turn an apple into an orange, just like you won't turn an orange into an apple. You can rip the peel off and try to put the peel on top of one and try to disguise it, but fundamentally we both know you can't turn one thing into another. In this case, I know you guys are gonna try to clip that and use that for other things, bro. Stop being a hater, stop clipping my shit. I already be knowing. When it comes to the autistic and the holistic experience, the only way we can coexist in society is if we are appreciated for being different than one another and find a way to make those differences complementary of the weaknesses that we naturally have. That's the only way it works. We either collaborate with each other, accepting of our differences and accommodating of those differences, or we attempt to force one side through conquering to be the other, which they never will, just because we know they never will, and then we punish everybody who isn't going to fix themselves into this status, or sedate themselves or medicate themselves into this status, just because we wanted to justify taking 40% of people and calling them non-humans. Because fundamentally, that's what it is. Like, these people at the top who do this type of stuff, they're not stupid. They're smart. They just need some ridiculously 6-part backdoor way to justify saying that human right there is not a human, not because they're not a human, but because if I don't call them a human, then I can justify doing this non-human activity to them, which is really what satisfies me. Not being a good human being, especially with the overabundance of resources that I have access to even have these sick-ass ideas. I have to keep on saying that because I know, like, we are like baby levels, baby steps in the conversation of neurodivergence and autism. So I understand that I'm gonna have to be pulling a heavy leg for myself, and I'm 100% ready to do that. I mean, I'm carrying 3 legs anyway. What's another one? But it's important that I address that because I don't want my community, especially, to be the people that says, well, holistics hate us so much, we should just hate them back, or we should be rebel against them and just never connect with them again. Like, I don't want us to be that, like, polarized type of, like, the man versus woman thing, or like the black versus white thing. I need us to understand that we are different, but there is love on the other side of that difference, bro. And in being able to hold on to the love, but let the fear of our differences go, then we're able to build something that we would have never had the opportunity to imagine of creating. But again, that only comes after doing the unimaginable, which is being able to love an other being different than the self. And you know what's crazy? Actually, if I remember it, I'm going to clip a theory that I have as to genuinely like what holistic people are. And this actually might get me canceled, so I apologize if it does. But this is one theory that I have of like the neurotypical versus neurodivergent, and how the forget it. I'll just tag it in here, and then you guys let me know what you think about that. And then I'm going to figure out how we're going to keep on progressing through this. Okay, very, very important. Now that we've addressed that holistics and autistics are fundamentally just different, and probably important to address this too. Holistic and neurotypical and autistic and neurodivergent are not synonymous. Holistic means not autistic. Autistic means autistic. Neurodivergent means on the neurodivergent spectrum. Many things are on there. There's CPTSD, there is BPD, there is bipolar, there is ADHD. Neurodivergent from the typical. Again, this is why we had to address the fact, why do they call these neurotypicals if, I'm not gonna say that, but why do they call them neurotypical as if they are the baseline human being? See, this is where everything starts to factor in. Everything starts to factor into itself. And if you want to just look at it from a race perspective, like there's all these different types of skin colors of people on Earth. How come they all happen to be less than this one group who like gets burnt by the sun? Just sit here and think about that. Like that group of people, that is the golden child. And are they the golden child because they're the golden child, or are they the golden child because, genuinely speaking, they have so much fear deeply rooted in them because they aren't grounded in this reality or in this human experience for what it is? Just saying. Now, I don't even know how far away from detachment and dissociation we got, having that little 15-minute little ramble. But now, accepting the fact that apples and oranges is the situation here, we can really dig into what I mean by how we might be saying the same words, but speaking a completely different language. The neurotypical, which I call the corporate slave manufactured model, this is how they perceive detachment, or for what I know. And also, this is from me being able to engage in a lot of these new age spiritual communities and see a lot of these people who are actually struggling with a lot more stuff than they're willing to say, but they're able to guise that pain and that suffering through psychedelic drug addictions or raging at raves all the time and not really getting with the self. We're going to take this too literally, detach ourselves from ourselves, thinking that we are shedding the ego because we just don't feel it anymore. No. You're detaching and dissociating from the truth or from what you're feeling. Or if it's too overwhelming or intense to dissociate from, you're just going to deny that it's there. And that is going to be the coping mechanism, which is not healing, because all that's doing is putting a Band-Aid on a stab wound and acting like that thing is supposed to heal. But it's the reason why holistic people can do this so well, can just detach and be like, well, okay, well, that's that, especially from their feelings, is because naturally they are not integrated. Like their ego, if you want to call it, their awareness, that's what I want to say, because the ego is something that sheds over time. The awareness, it's not integrated with them, with their inner world. And because it's not, and because and I don't know if this is a natural, like a socialization process to where they get severed off from this inner world, or it's just so much shame that you endure becoming an adult, you realize, hey, that's childlike activity, that's child behavior, I don't do that, I'm grown, I'm mature. All of that ends up consequencing and ends up locking this inner world, this inner child into a box. And holistics, as a means of coping with that, instead of saying, hey, that is wrong, like you shouldn't be shutting your truth and your soul and your inner calling out like that. So how do we balance that, like complete self-rejection? Oh, we're gonna turn that inner sense of seeking and inner sense of validation that you used to appreciate, we're gonna just invert that. So all the emotions you feel on the inside that you're constantly suppressing right now, hey, how about we just give you a bunch of opportunities to express yourself into the world and seek validation that can help you fully dissociate from what you're feeling on the inside. So then we create these pillars of status. So if somebody higher on the status totem pole looks down at you and gives you some gratitude, gives you some validation, then you can feel good about yourself, even if you don't feel good about yourself. Not because what they're telling you is going to help you, but because what they're telling you is supposed to complete you. It's very weird reality, especially people like a lot of these people don't realize it because it's just so socially acceptable to just be outside seeking validation with other people, especially when you were like, you're not choosing to not participate in it. But this is the reason why I drew these lines on the outside of this mask in verse 2, how I drew them in relation to this Venn diagram here, but I'll get into explaining that. I drew them on the outside of the mask because, again, I just want to know if self-acceptance comes from the external validation. It's inspired by the inner seeking of acceptance, but it is completed by the external that validates that self through performance, through clout chasing, through doing whatever type of nonsense, sacrificing the reputation. Then the self inherently is never like within you, the holistic person. The self is actually a fantasy, a broken perspective, like a broken illusion that can only ever be completed when other people or the external world validates it. Meaning that the inner self, it's just so constantly it's so rejected that you have to then, from not allowing yourself to integrate with this inner world or not appreciating it, not valuing it, you then have to go into the outer world and ground yourself here to complete yourself. This is what the scary thing is about holistic people talking about detachment now. Because the detachment is not from the world to dive into the self. The detachment is from the self because the self is too overwhelming to continue to maintain the mask in this reality. Because if you knew the truth, you'd realize that it's reality that's overwhelming you, and you need space away from your reality so you can address what is going on within you, and then you can attack reality better once you're ready to address reality. But we don't live in a world like that. We live in a world where you have to continue to perform, even if you aren't ready or you aren't given the accommodations to do so. See, isn't that nice? And that's why, especially like as an autistic person, like who's unmasked and you genuinely like accept yourself, you're always going to have issues with people who are still, especially holistics, who are still chasing validation of the mask or still performing in the social game because they are willing to sacrifice parts of themselves, whether it's sacrificing their truth, who they really are, how they really feel, how they really express themselves. They are constantly willing to sacrifice that to prioritize the potential of acceptance that will come for performing properly with their social mask, that they can perform better with because they aren't constantly trying to beat down this inner child or this inner world that they are always connected to. Like I described here for autistic people, we are always connected to that world. No matter how many drugs you give us, no matter how sedated you make us, no matter how much you punish us, we will always be connected to this world. So we might as well fucking learn how to integrate it and express it into the waking world and get compensated for it. And again, now just saying the word compensation just made me trigger another idea, which if you are naturally rejecting of the self, the more you reject yourself on the inside, the more you seek validation on the outside, because the more that confusion, the scarier that confusion is to deal with and to address. Feeling like you're floating in a reality when everybody else who is accepting of themselves or knows themselves is walking on the ground. And again, that desire to be a part of the group, a part of the people who are doing it right when everybody else is doing it wrong, is too high for holistic people to truly address without just rushing to make a decision that would allow them the acceptance or the validation they're seeking. But it's another interesting perspective that I must add here is I'm speaking from the perspective of everyday people like the poors, genuinely. And what's interesting is, as a general, like a regular person, working class person, I guess, you aren't allowed to access this inner world full of dreams and visions and like desires. You aren't allowed to access that unless you're rich. Because you're supposed to be spending every second of your damn life seeking acceptance or making somebody else rich. Because you have no purpose as a poor other than you should attempt to get rich. But that's another lie, because you attempting to get rich will inevitably set you on course to make somebody else rich, exploiting the hell out of you, because instead of actually investing in you and making you rich, that person that you're working 80 hours a week for is gonna say, damn, I got a hard worker here. Why would I ever let them leave this position? Because that 80 hours a week that idiot's making me, and I'm paying them an extra $1 an hour for, they're making me an extra $10 million a year. But I'm never gonna say that, because if I told them that, then they'd run their own thing. And now I have competition and I just lost an employee. This is why when Americans talk about, especially like older Americans, when they speak about participation trophies being an issue, and I know most of them are saying it's just like out of pure racism, so I'm not speaking about them. But when older people are saying participation trophies became a main issue in America, I might have to agree with that, because more people than not, we live in a world where there are so many awards given out. There are more second, third, and fourth place trophies given out than people are actually properly compensated for the job that they do. You have to sit here and think like how the real issue with that. People would rather be given a trophy or a sticker or a title that means nothing while still being paid the same slave wage or still not being compensated properly. Imagine how cost-effective that is for a CEO who wants to keep making more money but doesn't want to keep investing in their business. Let's just throw awards at these people. Let's make them feel like we give a fuck about them. And let's just see how long that lasts. Or we'll just put them in cycles to where they're competing against each other to see who can be given a fuck about. Because they all know we don't give a shit about them. You guys are gonna look at me like a psychopath until one of these CEO conversations gets leaked and they're talking about you like freaking ants on an ant farm, bro. And then you're gonna be like, oh goodness, Disney, hopefully you're still living and you're not still starving, because you're right. But we'll actually conclude this. We'll conclude this side first, and then we'll get into the other side, the autistic side. That's what I'm starting to realize. I don't know if you can see it in my eyes, but I'm cracking down the progression as we go. But it wouldn't hurt to say this, honestly. It's not only the acceptance of the group or of the master that's being chased. It's literally both. Like when there is no self-acceptance, when there is no, because again, it's most of these holistic people or most of these, they don't have an inner world. They don't have an inner monologue. And if that's the truth, again, I don't want to assume, but if that's the truth, these people are just living their life and then retaining what needs to be retained and then releasing what doesn't. And they can prioritize playing the social game because their foundation sets them up to succeed. And if not succeed, at least be an active participant in that social game. But for us, we're screwed from the start. Cooked from the start. Because we already, like, it's almost like being born into this world a single parent of your inner child. And any person that you're in relationship with, anywhere you go, you are constantly having to be cognizant of accommodating and being aware of the potential of this inner child that you have been born with responsibility over. And if you continue to force yourself as an autistic person into this, I hate myself, I need to fix myself. I hate myself, I need to fix myself. I hate myself, I need to fix myself. Or I'm not like them, I want to be like them. I'm not like them, I want to be like them. If you keep doing that to yourself, you're going to rip this thing wide open, bro. And most people, I'm going to say most people, I don't do no studies on this, but I believe most people who genuinely try to rip this apart for the sake of having their mask accepted end up sabotaging the whole entire thing. Most, if not all people who genuinely think that their sense of completion and acceptance will come from fully submitting to this forced integration, like hazing into holistic culture, bound to sabotage the whole thing. Because again, even if you do get this mask and fit this mask into their culture, remember, the only thing that got you in was the mask. So the second they have to see beyond the mask and see you accidentally existing outside of your mask, say goodbye to all the connections you made with that thing. Say goodbye. And even if they don't reject you off the bat, you and your real self that is protruding or pushing out of the mask is going to get too overwhelming for people who don't have a world behind the mask or have built an entire identity, an entire lifestyle around not addressing what is behind their mask. Yeah. While holistic people are engaging in this social culture that is just fully externalized, the masters of our society that are not playing this like identity war, cult of identity type like back and forth, they're just creating a bunch of sedative and compliance-based outlets for slaves to fetishize their chains and damnation. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? Look me in my eyes as I tell you that. Look me in my sexy face as I tell you that. No, I'm playing. But are you starting to see this? They have us giving every last drop of energy we have to participate in the outer world, rejecting ourselves off the bat for the sake of selling our souls, damn near, for the hope that we will be accepted into the mainstream. Many people will not, and that's just the illusion, that's just the trick. Convince everybody they can do it, only allow certain people to do it, so they inspire other people of that same demographic to do it, while then destroying everybody else's opportunity and not giving them the tools or the foundation to see that this is a scam and everybody's just playing it because everyone's too scared to go their own fucking way. But for all the people that aren't, like, this is the best part about it. When you accept yourself for who you are, you understand that this is a lifelong process. And you don't just accept yourself and that's it. Like, you accept yourself as somebody who needs to accept themselves as life changes you. Which is very dynamic, but gives you the opportunity to be very consistent in knowing what is the self and what is not the self, allowing you the opportunity to reject opportunities or offers that are given to you from other people as a means of manipulating or exploiting yourself outside of your control. But if you don't know yourself, you don't have that inner awareness of that inner world, bro, and an appreciation for it beyond that, Think about how many opportunities I could give you. I could put you out into the world and I could say, hey, you want some confidence? Drink this alcohol. Put this baking soda in your nose. Hey, you want this? Or hey, you wanna feel good about yourself? Go out and sleep with these girls, or go do this, or go do that. Like, the ruling class can just continue. The less you know yourself and the more you're seeking that external validation, the more power you are giving the person who is providing you that validation. Because the more desperate you are, the more salvation like that validation turns into. And it can be a horrible person giving you an offer. But if you're desperate, are you really going to give a fuck? Depending on the quality of the offer, maybe. But if the offer is the offer and the offer is there, it might not matter who it comes from until that person shows you that they aren't trustworthy, bro. Beyond extending the offer, which for many people is already too late. So think. If you're with my page, if you rock with me, if you like anything that I say, you got to think. Actually, let me make sure this is still recording because I've been yapping for a minute. I can't even lie. Yep. We chilling. But the reason why it's so difficult for these people is because not only do they not have a lot going on the inside world that they can like resort to if they are rejected or outcast from traditional society. But think about this. They can perform. Like, they can do the culture. They can do the performance. They can do the social engagements and whatnot. So why would they stop doing that or think what they're doing is wrong unless they are traumatized by the world enough to be forced into this inner world or forced into this inner universe to where they realize there is an other self that they've had dormant the whole time? That other people, autistics, us, have not had dormant, have been active the whole time and have been exploding like a freaking active volcano. And we've been forced to deal with the consequences of not being able to treat that active volcano. And then punished for having an active volcano, even though that's what we were born with, rather than these people who were all born somehow with a dormant volcano, and then some of them can just miraculously turn their volcano on whenever they want. Which we all know it's all just lies. Because it's just Nepo kids. We're going to move to the next part right now. Now, we've been doing a very great back and forth little integration of, well, this is holistic and this is autistic. This is holistic, this is autistic. So I'm hoping that was good enough for me to not need to go a bajillion % on this side, but really just get the important parts that I need to out of this. So again, apples and oranges, holistics and autistics are not the same. The only thing we can do is compete against one another, and then one side gets conquered and then forced to become the other, or collaborate with one another and become the fullness of all of our potentials for whatever they may be. Because we've decided to say, hey, you know what? For the sake of you being able to see the fullness of who you are, I'm willing to humble myself and to make sure that I only take what I need to make sure that you also have what you need to get to where you're trying to go. And in the abundance of succeeding or accomplishing this goal that we have, we can share the abundance that comes with everybody. Because again, it comes first with that responsibility, that personal responsibility of humbling the self enough to know that I am needed here, but I cannot want until everybody's needs are served. That's some conscious community type thinking though. Like, I can't expect a lot of you guys to think like that, especially with how social media and social media psychosis or digital psychosis has plagued so many people's minds into just hyper individualism. Like, y'all don't even know what a community is, but the only type of community y'all know is cult. But speaking of my real ones now, those of y'all, you might be familiar with this, non-traditional life path people, but my rebel souls, again, this is a good time to get into, if you rocking with me and I'm rocking with you, you know that. Come rock with Cosmic Nomads Rebel Souls. Get you a t-shirt. I don't have any discounts on there, but they're pretty reasonably priced. So go get you 1, 2, 3. I don't know. Get you a lot. Get you something for the girl that you love. Get you something for that. No. Get you 2 for the girl that you love. And then you should one for yourself too. We perceive, as autistic people, we perceive detachment way differently. And I don't even want to call it detachment because sorry, this thing's a little itchy on my head. I don't even want to call it detachment because we aren't detaching from anything. Like the whole entire reason why I was even able to call it detachment for realistic people is because let's hear this together. They are already detached from this inner world that I'm describing. Mind you, I'm not sure if this part plays a role into what I'm about to describe right now, but it could. So just take this fact. The fact is, autistic brains are 42% more active, I believe, than allistic brains. Do you think that might have something to do with the fact that we are more integrated with our inner worlds? Or that could be a testament to show, hey, more brain activity just means that you are more deeply integrated into your energetic self than you are in your physical human self. Which, again, being grounded in reality, which allistics have the fortune of being, they have. But for us, we're like one foot on the ground and the other foot is constantly always up, and we're just like floating a little bit all the time because we're not fully here and there's no accommodations to like grab that other foot down and help us stand on our own 2 feet. There's just medicate that extra stuff that you are away and like not to be seen by the real world, or we'll punish you into being who you need to be, and we'll strike the fear of God into you, into being who you need to be. But at no point in this journey will we let you accept yourself. Because what's the little third back end that could happen off of that? You medicate yourself. Whether it's through coping mechanisms, through drugs, through sex, through improper external validation and negative reinforcement, you decide to take it into your own hands to find out how you can cope with this inability to accept yourself. And you probably take a whole bunch of negative or bad habits with you, attempting to fulfill that quest. Not knowing that you're attempting to literally wire out of yourself, so you can be not yourself, but not yourself. Like never just accepting in that whole process, not yourself is not somebody that you can be for a long time, at least without burning out. Because you, think about this. It's like snorkeling in the water and everybody, like you're snorkeling around a bunch of fish. And the fish are confused as to why you have to keep on going back out of the water to get air. And they're just like, why are you wearing that? Why are you doing that? Like, we're in the water. Why can't you just breathe? And you're like, no. I don't breathe. Like, my lungs don't go under here. That's why I got to do all this extra shit before I get here. But it's the fish literally sitting and looking at you and being like, why can't you, like, you're in the water. Why can't you just breathe the water? All right. Kind of lost myself where I was going there, but to just make it real quick to get right back on track, we as autistic people perceive detachment differently because we are always integrated with that inner world. And again, with that inner world comes at the mercy of our emotions, at the mercy of our dreams, at the mercy of our fear, like really, 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 even more so than allistic people, we are at the mercy of that inner world that the waking world doesn't want to accept exists outside of believing that everyone's like in psychosis. But somehow religious people aren't. Another conversation for another day. There is no desire to accept that. I don't even know if there's an actual awareness of this. I honestly, like, I'm not trying to be like cocky or nothing, but I feel like I might be one of the first people that created this. Especially for our people, for us, huh? I think I might be the first person coining this stuff. But tell me if I'm wrong, genuinely. Because we already got into this, like the how to fix a autistic person method, or how to neuter an autistic person, basically. The whole point is we're going to think that we can just scare everybody into wanting to be a part of this inclusion, acceptability class. And we're not going to accept the fact that some of you guys don't even care to be accepted. But because you don't care to be accepted, we're going to punish you. Because we have to reinforce some way, somehow, everybody needs to be like this, because these are the easiest people to control and to regulate outside of their own best interest and free will. And these, you got to find a new task, a new task force, a new CIA, a new everything, a new operation for every single one of these people, because you can't predict what is going on in that inner world. But you don't have to predict this one, because you can just get these people to reject their own inner world and then force them to cling on to whatever you feed them in the outer world. And even better, you can create a society full of scarcity on an earth that's abundant, mind you. You can promote scarcity on a planet to make people feel like there is not enough resources for them to be able to exist in their fullness and their neighbor to do so. So they end up beating on their neighbor to steal their resources that they think are not in abundance, when the people who are living at the top have so much abundance, they could probably feed this world 1,000,000 times over for the next 6 generations. And I'm lying, bro. But I'm not far off from the truth. And that should scare you. That should scare you. I keep on running off from the point, but I never run off from the plug. So as I get back into this point right here, how do we as autistic people perceive detachment? Or how can we perceive it in a way that allows us to actively still utilize ourselves for the uniqueness of what we are, but not lose ourselves in these experiences that we're having, or shy away from living a real human life? Because no matter how much armor you put on yourself, the whole point in being a human being was to be a human being, to live a human experience. Once you recognize that, it's all about accommodating that and actualizing that to the fullness of the potential. But if you don't know that, then you're at the mercy of whoever else is going to give you the validation that allows you to accept yourself. And that could be a finish line that you never get to in this life. As an autistic person myself, when I'm perceiving detachment, I know that I will never be apart from my emotions. I know that I'll never be apart from the energy that is coursing inside of me. Because just as much as that can be overwhelming, can be scary, can be confusing, it is also the life force that I am. It is my passion. It is my love. It is my care. It's my belief. It's my intensity. Two sides of the same coin. And in being able to have access to one, I must be able to create space to appreciate the other. But in doing that, that means I have to be willing to feel through my emotions, to live through my experiences, and to be able to have the discernment to see what I'm willing to carry with me and what needs to get left behind for somebody else to experience. I call that the process of acceptance and alchemization, or acceptance and alchemy. I think alchemization is not a word. I might just made that shit up. So apologies for that. Webster, don't come after me. Because we're not going to be apart from our emotions like our friends on the holistic side of the universe are, what are we going to be? We're going to acknowledge the fact that there is something in there bogging us down or stopping us from being able to fully focus on our present moment. In acknowledging that, we're going to accept the fact that it's there, and not only accept the fact that it's there, but give it an option. We're going to give the emotions or the energy that we're feeling an option, because we're not going to let it control us. We're going to say, hey, event, energy, trauma, whatever it is that is still plaguing our energy, are you of use to me and the person I'm becoming in this journey? And can I integrate the lessons that I learned from you, this experience or these emotions, into myself to keep building this person that I'm becoming, and not just building the person I'm becoming, but to continue to add fuel into this fire that I'm cultivating inside of me so I can shoot that out into the world as I'm actualizing myself into reality. Like, is this energy, is this experience, is this emotion, is this something, mind you, this isn't, you don't ask this question as a means of saying, oh, well, that's overwhelming, I'm not gonna feel it. Like, this is you feeling it. This is you crying the tears. This is you screaming out of pain. This is you laughing out of happiness and joy, but feeling the emotions. And then after feeling the emotions, knowing that you're not gonna react negatively because of the emotions, but you're just going to allow your body to feel first. From there, we get to decide, is this something I can integrate to continue to take steps towards making my life that place that I can not just accept, but I can continue to actualize my truth in? Or is this something that I need to feel to remind me that I don't want to feel like this again? And I need to release this and to allow this lesson to teach me, hey, that's an experience I don't want. That's something I don't want to do anymore. That's something I don't want to feel anymore. That's something I don't want to have to endure anymore. And then make the changes in my life beyond that, make the changes that are aligned with the life I do want to live, now having a knowing of the life I don't want to live, or the circumstances I do not want to perpetuate anymore. And again, a little nice note I want to add here is that most of us, like, forgive me, not most of us, all of us, we don't get to choose a majority of our circumstances. The only thing we do get to choose is how we respond to those circumstances. And the second we give ourselves the power of how we respond to the circumstances, then constantly being at the mercy of how we react to our circumstances, that's when we give ourselves the opportunity to change those circumstances. And that's when life gets better. It may not be the best, it may not be exactly what we want, but it gets better from what it was, without having to escape what really happened or what really was, because we will never create a real reality in the future if we are believing in lies of what happened in the past. I'm gonna clip that. That better go viral. Okay. I think this was a quality video, honestly. And we're honestly wrapping it up here, so let me just figure out if we're still recording here. And then I'm gonna, yes, you know it. So now we're gonna conclude our video, because I already said that. Yeah, I already said everything. Okay. So I guess I'll just do a conclusion here, because, you know, Mr. Yap-a-Lot, Mr. Yap-a-Lot Records kind of goes everywhere with it. But the autistic brain and the holistic brain are two completely different things. We're gonna have to get to a point of such humility and such self-acceptance that we decide as a people we're willing to be different and accept ourselves and our differences. And in doing that, we can collaborate and create something that we would have never imagined or even had the ability to do had we tried to create it on our own, or had we tried to colonize another group of people and then force them to do it for us. My bad, I'm hearing so many noises right now, like I thought I was in the middle of a freaking TV show. But as we conclude this video, I just want to thank you guys for being here. Like, I don't think you guys understand. It's so weird how I even came across even making this content. But to be real short and brief about it, like, the opportunity to create this and to take steps into building this showed up when I was at the lowest point, the worst point in my entire fucking life, bro. And now I'm starting to realize all the love and the care and the energy that I was hoping for, wishing for on the other side of my life to come save me from my circumstances. I had to be the one to create that. I had to be the one to put the lifeline out first and say, hey, this is me and this is the life I want to live and this is how I want to serve the world and my people. And I had to let the world meet me back at that. And every single day I post this content, every single day I'm able to be a part of this world that we live in, bro, that we're creating together. It continues to remind me how important this is that I keep doing this shit. It continues to remind me how important it is that, you know, we could continue to build these communities on platforms that are quite literally self-destructing themselves. I couldn't be more grateful to have you guys here. I couldn't be more thankful for everything that we've been able to endure together, especially as 2024 was the real big startup year. But now you and I both know there's no going back, and I hope you can appreciate everywhere that we have yet to go on this journey. Please believe in yourself, bro. And if you don't believe in yourself, just know that I believe in you. And I hope that makes it just a little bit better. Until I see you next time, stay fresh, stay fly. Keep rocking out.